All right, you guys, I think we are live. It is so good to see you here on Monday morning. It is the day after the art show, and whoo, it's a doozy. Um, but I am glad to be here, and it's good to talk to you. We get to talk about everything that is happening in classes this week. It's kind of a weird week for us. So, first and foremost, thank you to everyone who came out to the show yesterday. I hope you were able to make it. It was definitely our biggest event ever. It's always amazing to me the number of people that show up for these artists, and we're just so honored to be able to put on that event so that they have that opportunity to really shine. So thank you for coming out and supporting them and supporting our community and our studio. For those of you who invited grandparents and teachers and neighbors and friends, you guys really you make that event so special. So thank you to that. If you missed out, don't worry, it happens every year. And we'll be back again next year, I guess, after we recover. So I do have a whole bunch of content that's going to go out about the show. So I've got the first of three at least reels that'll go out on Instagram that kind of show the setup, then the show, and then kind of what the breakdown part looks like. So we'll have that coming out. We do have a blog post coming out later this week that will honor our exhibiting artists as well as list out our award winners. For those of you who are curious about who got awards, we'll go ahead and list those out. So good stuff coming. We'll continue to kind of talk about it and use that content throughout the week. So you'll still see more about it. If you have photos that you want to share, feel free to put them after we post. If you want to put them in the comments, or if you want to post them and tag us, we'll reshare. Sound good? All right, so real quick, in a couple things in the intro. Like I said, it is a weird week. You'll notice on my slideshow it says week 1 of May, and you're like, wait a minute, Allison, it's April 28th. It's not May, but our month starts on a Thursday this week, so we will have May classes starting on Thursday. So this video is going to be week 1 of May, rather than working behind where Tuesday, Thursday people and Friday people wouldn't get their information until after the class has passed. We're going to go ahead and work ahead. So for those of you who are in a Monday, a Tuesday, or a Wednesday class, just be aware. This video is going to have some great information in it, but when we talk specifically about what is happening in classes this week, it's going to refer to those May classes. So for some of you, that might not be till next week, but we'll go over that in each individual section. Most important thing you need to know is there is no Tuesday classes. So if you're in a Tuesday class, don't come to the studio this week. It's because it's the 5th Tuesday of the month. So all of our drawing classes, all of our multimedia classes, all of our preschool classes, all of our creative exploration classes, they have all finished all of their April curriculum and projects. So that 5th day is just kind of like, what do we do? So we go ahead and close. We'll take that break. We'll actually recover for some art show stuff. We'll do some prep for May. So studios will be closed on Tuesday. Same for Wednesday. We don't have a lot of Wednesday classes, but we have 2 creative explorations classes that meet in Plattwoods. If you're in one of those 2 Wednesday classes, same thing. It's the 5th Wednesday of the month. So don't come this week. We will see you next week in the month of May. Okay. Monday classes, you guys still got to finish April. That's today. So we're gonna wrap up those projects today. I've got some great pictures to show you of some of the projects that are already done as we go through the slideshow. That's the wrong button. Hang on. There it is. Looks like that wasn't it. Preschool classes. All right, so here we go. Monday and Tuesday preschool classes. None. Don't come today, tomorrow. All right. We're still in April. We finished April, so we'll see you guys in May. Here are our books for the month of May. Let me scoot over a little bit. We are reading Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, which is awesome. That'll be week 1's book. We're going to make some clay pigeon sculptures with little bobbleheads. Adorable. Now this will be an air dry clay, meaning we'll sculpt it in one class and then it will stay here and we will paint it in subsequent classes. Typically we do that painting in a station. We don't actually do it as one of the lessons or as the arrival activity, but we'll set it up in the station so if they want to finish it with some acrylic paint, they can. And then we're going to read, I believe, Sylvester. I can't point. I'd be a terrible weather person. Sylvester and the Magic Pebble is week 2. And then this is Not My Hat. The theme for the month is surrealism and sculpture. So everything we make this month is going to be very sculptural and in the round. Is there any other notes I needed to tell you? No. Multimedia classes. So our K-thirds, if you're not in a Monday class, Monday, you're an exception. Finished their projects last week and took them home. So these are those woven tapestries. If you're in a Monday class, you will be finishing your projects tonight or today if you're in a daytime class. These are some of our favorites. They're so textural. They're so sensory rich. They're very tactile. I love fiber art. So these went home, and I hope you guys enjoy them and have a great place to hang them. I love all of the fine motor skills that we teach with this project: the cutting, the tying, the knotting, the braiding, the weaving. It's just so good for those fingers. So this is a really fun one. Now, if you are in a Thursday class, you start your May project. So let's talk about that. It is a metals month for all of our multimedia kids. And my K-thirds will be making a metal sculpture. So we'll have a wood base and wire and metal tooling foil for their sculptural elements. We also have some wood beads for them to thread onto their wire. It is very open-ended and very abstract in terms of what they want to create in their first week. So Thursday people, that's you. And then Monday, Tuesday people, that's you next week, right? So in their first week, they're going to look at a slideshow. We have some really great contemporary art examples of metal sculpture. We'll talk about what it means to be in the round. We'll talk about the sculpture itself, as well as like there's just limits to sculpture, because of gravity. We'll talk about that a little bit, and then they'll brainstorm kind of what they want to do. They will also, make sure I get this right, they'll learn how to do their metal embossing. So we use I think it's a 22 or 25 gauge aluminum tooling foil. That is copper on one side and aluminum on the other side. It's very easy to emboss, and so we'll put that on felt and use a stylus to do the embossing. So those will be part of their metal sculpture. So they'll learn that embossing technique this week. They'll do a little bit of creation of some of their foil details, and then we'll put them in little Ziploc bags and save them for the subsequent weeks as we start to kind of flesh out what our sculpture is going to look like. For my 4th and 5th graders in my homeschool classes, again, no Tuesday classes. So if you're in one of those 4th, 5th classes that meets on Tuesday, don't come this week. It's the 5th Tuesday of the month. We'll see you next week for May. I did include a picture of our felted bracelets. Last week, anybody in Tuesday, Thursday classes took home their April Fiber Arts project. So these felted bracelets that we made, this wearable art. I do know at Flatwoods, some of the kids made bookmarks, which I think is so creative and awesome, and I love it. But they were a fun project and a good way to do felting, but on not a huge scale, because it is such a tedious process for a lot of our kids. This was the first time that they felted, and we had some really positive feedback about it. We do wish we would have spent a little bit more time on the sewing and embroidery stage. So we'll make some adjustments next year when we do a project like this, and make sure that we allow more time for that exploration. Our kids really got into the stitching, and we just didn't have any, we ran out of month. That's what happened. So this is wrapping up. If you're in a Monday class, you guys will finish yours tonight or today. It is Metals Month for our 4th and 5th graders in our homeschool classes. And so their project is a 3D sculpture as well, and it is made out of metal. It is going to be mostly out of that foil, that aluminum tooling foil, and it is a butterfly or a moth theme. So the wings themselves are made out of that thin sheet metal. It will have embossed details on it as well as color. We'll color either with Sharpie markers, which are alcohol-based, or with alcohol inks. When we get to that step in the process, it'll be a second, but we'll remind you that those two things are not washable. So please make sure you wear old clothes to the studio. In their first week of May classes, so that's my Thursday people this week, and then my Monday, Tuesday people next week. In their first week of May classes, they'll look at a slideshow of art inspiration, very sculptural art, especially animal-themed art. And then they will design their butterfly wings on paper. We try to get that shape because it's not a template that we provide. So they have to decide their shape. We're going to talk about symmetry, and they'll design it to scale. So we'll put it on paper, and it'll actually be the same scale as the metal that they'll use next week. My 6th, 7th, and my 8th, 12th, so all of my middle school and high schoolers, they also finished their felting projects. You'll notice theirs are 3-dimensional. These are big. These are, not big, like poster big, but this is big for felted art. So this fits in an 8x10 window on an 11 by 14-inch frame. Lots of poking and stabbing that had to happen in order to get this felt to come together into a painting like this. They did an amazing job. It's been a while since we did a felting project that was 2D with this age group. Last couple months or years, we've done 3D projects. This was fun to see what they could do in 2 dimensions. Lots of great stuff came out. Again, if you're in a Monday class, you guys will be finishing your fiber arts projects today. But if you're in that Tuesday, Thursday, you guys have already taken them home. Now, if you hadn't taken it home and it's still here, sign up for a makeup or talk to us about a time to come in and finish that up. Okay. We're going to also start metals projects with this group. So they will do a wire sculpture with a wood base similar to our youngest kids, but we're adding in some additional metal findings. So washers and nuts and bolts and things. We're obviously not soldering. I say obviously, we have soldered before. One of the first couple of years that we were open, I was like, we're going to do metal smithing. And then I decided that maybe was a little bit too advanced for us. So now we're not going to do any soldering. Everything we do will be wire wrapping in order to hook things together. So we've got different gauges of wire for them. 12 gauge wire is the really, really thick stuff. 14 gauge, 16 gauge on up to, I think the 24 gauge wire is our skinny mini that we can do a lot of really great wrapping with. It's almost thread-like. So we'll learn all about that. The wire is colored. It's an anodized aluminum. So it should be some cool stuff. I'm excited to see what they'll come up with in their first week of classes. So again, that's this Thursday starts May classes through Monday, Tuesday of next week. These guys will look at a slideshow of different wire sculpture art, contemporary art that other artists have made out in the world. We'll talk about what it means to work in the round. We'll do a little bit of playing with wire just because it's a medium that maybe not everybody has had a lot of practice with, and we'll get to designing our sculptures onto paper. All right, let's go over creative explorations. So this is the curriculum or the stations for our creative explorations. Reminder, if you're in a Wednesday class, Wednesday is still April, so we are not starting classes. If you normally come to Wednesday class at Flatwoods, just don't come this week. We'll see you next week for your first week of May classes. But our stations here, we've got some metal tooling that is our media focus. So again, that embossing of the sheet aluminum, which is copper on one side and aluminum on the other. We will color that with Sharpie markers to make sure we're old close to the studio. Our art history focus, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I majored in Spanish, and that is not a Spanish word. So, but she is a contemporary artist, and one of her best known kind of types of sculptures are these giant spiders, you guys. They're like huge metal spiders. So that's our art history focus. She is a contemporary artist, and we're going to encourage our kids to use aluminum foil to create their own tabletop spider sculptures. We've got a collaborative vertical surface invitation. We're going to paint on foil, which is slick and a very different sensory input than painting on paper. We're going to do a still drawing invitation filled with shiny metal things because reflective surfaces look different. Our journal invitation pulls from our Drawing 102 curriculum. We're going to do some trading cards. And then we've got a spring sensory bin with like black beans and flowers and stuff that we'll use. We'll pull from our fundamentals rooms. So great stuff for our creative explorations to wrap up their year. Just don't come on Wednesday, right? Friday, people here in Liberty, we'll see you in class. Let's go through drawings. I got to flip my paper here and make sure I get everything. This one I don't have quite as memorized. Let's do it. Drawing 101 class. So our theme for the month is in plein air, which is a French term that means like we go outside and we make art. That's not really what it means, but that's what I think it means. So we're going to try to get outside as much as possible with this group, even if it's just for 10 minutes. All of our drawing that we do will be kind of outside-y themed. But as we all have spring fever, especially for our younger artists, we're going to try to use some of our outsourced spaces with them. And of course, that's, weather dependent. So it is still spring in Missouri. So we'll see what happens. Reminder, there are no Tuesday classes. So if you're in a drawing class that meets on Tuesday, don't come. Oh, we won't be here. Doors will be locked. Signs will be on the door. Don't come. Last week, we looked at some reference images of nocturnal animals. So if you were in class last week and we did that charcoal reductive drawing of nocturnal animals, this was a repeat class from October. And most of our kids remembered it, which was great. It's a really fun drawing technique. In October, we did it with just bats. And in this time, we were able to add in some other animals, which prompted a great discussion of what is nocturnal. We looked at anteaters, and we looked at raccoons, and we looked at foxes and owls, and had some really great stuff. So that was everybody Tuesday and Thursday. If you're in a 101 class on Monday, that's the lesson you do tonight. So you'll be doing your charcoal reductive bat drawings or owl drawings, fox drawings today. Let me see, what else do I need? For those of you who are starting your May classes, so that's my Thursday 101 classes, we're going to start with working from photographic reference, and we're going to draw insects and bugs. We're going to design our own bug collection. 102. So we got two different 102 classes, right? 102 illustrative. They always spend, well, let me talk about last week first. Okay, last week they wrapped up their kind of lesson in vehicles and cars. We did a wild card lesson with them where they could get help on other things. And some of our kids chose to go back to previous lessons because vehicles and cars and planes and trains was not their favorite. So they maybe jumped over to like something we did in February or January or March even and did one of those because they were not their favorite. But it's okay. Live and learn. For our illustrative classes moving forward as we go into the May lessons, this is kind of the grand finale of their year. So we like to wrap it up by creating a comic book or an illustrated book. So we have blank books for them that we have stapled together. Oftentimes they do not work in the book itself because then if you mess up, then like you got to figure, anyways, usually we work on separate sheets of paper that are already gridded out with boxes, especially for very comic-y drawing. And then those get spray adhesive into the pages. It's just, and then you don't have bleeding problems, because our alcohol markers bleed through paper, that kind of stuff. So they'll have the option this year between working on a book like that or creating a set of artist trading cards. And that change came because not everybody's a storyteller. Some people just are illustrators, and I would fall into that category. I have no interest in writing a story. I love books and I read lots of stories, but I don't want to write them. Like it's just not my thing. And that's enough of an obstacle for me that I wouldn't want to do it. So, but I would love to make like trading cards. So we're going to do character trading cards as an option for those people who would rather do that than illustrate a book that has a story to it. So that's their option, and they will work all month long on it. And hopefully we have some really cool stuff at the end of the month to show. For my 102 realistic kids, and I got to look at my notes for this because I can't remember, they are also in plein air. So last week, you guys, last week was perspective. When I say last week, I mean Tuesday, Thursday classes, right? Because Monday, you guys are doing it today. It was perspective, and we drew interior rooms from our imaginations. There was an option between a 1-point and a 2-point perspective. And this is linear perspective. There are other types of perspective rules. There's atmospheric perspective, which we're going to talk about in this month's lessons as we go outside and we do other types of perspective drawings. We'll talk about atmospheric, but this is linear perspective. So this is where lines converge into a picture. And a lot of times we're identifying where the horizon is and where the vanishing point is. And it's just getting all the math right. So we did that lesson last week in an interior room. It was a very challenging lesson. It always is. It's one of those that you just do and you do and do, and eventually a light bulb goes on. And so we keep doing it because eventually the light bulb's going to go on, and everybody gets it on a different time frame, and that's okay. We acknowledge that it is tricky. We acknowledge it is hard, and we acknowledge our artists' grit and like just to push through and do their best, even though they know it's not great, it's not perfect, and maybe they don't get it 100%, but they're working at it and they're gonna get it. So it is a tricky lesson. I did it in my class. We give them an option between 1 and 2-point perspective. One of the things that tells us that your child is ready for 103 is if they can get 2-point perspective. If you can get 2-point linear perspective, then that is like a benchmark that we look at to moving up to 103, because the expectation is that although we may have to review it because you haven't used it in a while, that within a review you got it. So we don't do a lot of perspective lessons. I think we have 4 to 6 of them scattered throughout the year because it is so frustrating. So if we were to spend an entire month on perspective, it would really, and a child is not ready for it, it could really be demoralizing. So we just kind of circle through it and see where people are at. So anyway, anyone who's more interested in perspective or really wants to get an intensive course on it, do look into private lessons. That would be something that an instructor would be happy to do, a 4-session private lesson with you on linear perspective. And I'm almost thought like maybe we need to do a video series on it where the kids can work on it, you know, on their own, like as they want to. Anyways, I got ideas, I got thoughts, and I'm way off track, but linear perspective is tough. Here we go. Let's talk about what we're doing this month. So this month is in plein air, and in my 102 realistic class, we are going to be going outside and doing all sorts of fun stuff outside. Some of it will be linear perspective. Some of it will also be atmospheric perspective. So we drew interior rooms last month. This month we are going, or that's not right. I was like, that's not right. I was like, my notes are wrong. Hang on. Let me go make sure. It says we're doing a bug collection, but that's not right because that's 101. I'm going into my curriculum folders for the studio so I can find this. Click, 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 April, May, 102, realistic, trees and plants. That makes more sense. I'm like, we're not doing bugs in 102. So we're going to be drawing some trees and plants. We will go outside and if we can see some trees, we'll do those. We're going to talk a lot about the form of the tree, right? Because inside that like general kind of shape, there are lights and darks the same way we draw, our like 3D white forms in the studio. So they're going to be using, I think, colored pencils or chalk pastels. I can't remember. A lot of it depends on if we're outside drawing or inside drawing. It's easier for us to carry the colored pencils out. Chalk pastels are messy. So we'll see. We do have pictures and photo references of trees and plants. And we're going to be drawing those on a macro, like we're going to be zoomed out on them, not a micro level. Okay. Because it's not botanical illustration. It's like almost landscape drawing or putting the pieces into a landscape drawing. All right. Can you tell I teach the realistic class? Because I talk about it a lot. Let's talk about 103. Oh, I was going to show pictures. I meant to have pictures up here and I forgot to put them up. My 103 realistic kids did big poster sized pictures of landscapes using chalk pastels, and they were amazing. So hopefully you saw them. I posted them to Facebook and Instagram. So I meant to put them in the slideshow and I forgot. I even had them downloaded and everything. But great stuff from that class. In this month's class, they're going to work with charcoal and they're going to draw figures. So we've done portraiture, but we haven't done figure. So this group's going to have figures from photographic reference. I would love to do it from life, but we just don't have that kind of time or a model and all that stuff. So we're going to be working from photographs. So they'll pick their photograph. I've got a selection to choose from. A lot of it, since it is a high school class, a lot of it's going to be fabric draping, but we're still trying to get a very realistic figure. We'll use charcoal for that. So black and white paper, 12 by 18, and then black and white drawings. So it should be a good one. My 103 illustrative will also be doing the books, the comic books, or the trading cards. So those will be their two choices, kind of for their grand finale and final project. So they'll either be illustrating a book or wait a minute, I should read notes. I was like, I talked to Grace about this. That's not true. They're making a poster. Original characters and imagined world to life. So think movie poster, only of their stuff. That's what it was. Should have looked at the notes. All right. So there are, I think that's all the classes. Get it together, Elsa. Okay. Housekeeping. Reminder, no Tuesday or Wednesday classes this week. It is the 5th day of the month. The 5th Wednesday, the 5th Tuesday, no classes. Okay. Monday drawing and multimedia classes. As we look ahead through the month of May, there are 4 Mondays in the month, right? And it's like 1, 2, 3, Memorial Day. Nobody wants to come to class on Memorial Day. So you also don't want to come to class the first Monday in June. That's not fun. So that last Monday class will actually be on Thursday, 5/29. Where is it? There's right there. Thursday, 5/29. Okay. And then we've got some final makeup nights. And so I just kind of wanted to go over that with everybody. So looking at the calendar, I'm talking for the big kids. We'll talk about preschool ones too. So for our big kids, we do Wednesday night classes like makeups in Liberty, and we do Friday night ones in Flatwoods. So we will still have makeups on the 28th, which is the end of May. We will still have makeups on the 30th, which is in May. The following week, the entire staff, Orange Easel staff, has vacation, so we close down the studios. Nobody will be here. But if you don't get those makeups, because those are kind of like the final big nights of makeups, there will be other opportunities in June for you to come in and get your stuff. So yes, I know some people go on vacation at the end of the year. I know there are things that might come up that you didn't anticipate. Maybe there are illnesses and stuff. We don't want you to like, well, I was sick, so I missed my last class, and like that was kind of a waste. So there will be opportunities in June. Just as we get closer to time, what'll probably happen is that's I'm looking at my calendar. That like second week of June, that June through like the 9th through the 13th, we'll probably have multiple times for our kids to come in and just wrap up things or finish up. And if those don't work, you guys, we're not going anywhere. We're here all summer. We're here all summer a lot. Like once we get past that vacation week, it's we're here a lot. So there will be plenty of times. It just may not be where like it's a makeup time and everybody's there. It might just be a time that we coordinate with you to come in and finish up your stuff because we're also doing camp prep, or we also have a mini camp going on, or we also have, wrapping up a story time, that kind of stuff. So just know that there will be chances for you to come in. I don't want anyone to freak out about that or panic. We'll get you your stuff, I promise. Okay. But like I said, the final like official makeups will be the 28th and the 30th. For those of us who are in the preschool classes, we will not have makeups on, Liberty does theirs on Mondays. So we will not have makeups on the 26th because that's Memorial Day. I almost said Labor Day and I'm like way off, Allison. Memorial Day. But if we miss a class and we need one, we could always do it on the 27th, 28th, or 29th, which is just we kind of an odd schedule, but we can figure it out. And then the same thing with like Flatwoods will still have their normal scheduled makeups on the 29th. Okay. I think that's it, you guys. Like I said, this is our last month. I've had lots of people message me and say, when does this end? This is our last month. So we end at the end of May. They do go, sometimes some years, the way the calendar works out, we're able to finish before Memorial Day. This year, everybody goes after Memorial Day, I think. That's not true. Thursday people don't. Thursday people finish on the 22nd. So Thursday people finish before Memorial Day. But if you're a 4-time class, we'll see you after Memorial Day too. So it's all in your class calendar, and we'll talk about it throughout the month, I promise. Okay. I think that's it. You guys, thank you so much. Thanks for coming out to the art show and celebrating your artists and bringing people to celebrate your artists. So absolutely my favorite day of the year. Seriously, hands down. So, have a great one. I will see you guys soon.